Well, good afternoon to everybody. You know, last year at our annual meeting, I stood on this very stage. I looked out across the crowd, and I remember remarking about how great it was for all of us to be able to come out together, and because it was our first big operation, I guess, with MEC since the beginning of the pandemic. You know, we thought that everybody was on their way. You know, we were ready to put the pandemic behind us. And then all of a sudden, the Delta variant hit. And everybody's back in masks, everybody's disinfecting, we were social distancing, and then we finally got through with that, and we said, okay, well now we're on the other side of it. And a few months later, the Omicron variant hit. And now, here we are again, back in the large stage here, big crowd, and hopefully, Dr. Dobbs, God bless you, man, maybe now it's behind us, or at least we're at a point where we know how to live with it. So welcome to the MEC Annual Meeting. I am, as it was stated, Leon Collins. I'm the current chairperson of the board for MEC, and I thank you for being here and taking your time and coming to our annual meeting. You know, COVID changed a lot of things. Those of you business leaders, you know that we have started to use digital communication much more than what we did in the past. You know, whether it's team meetings or Zoom calls or whatever, that's almost a way of life right now. But, you know, it's also good that we have the opportunity to come together and see one another because, in my opinion, nothing beats a warm smile or a firm handshake. And the fact that we're able to get back to doing some of that, I think, is a testament to the people of Mississippi because we've kind of weathered the storm. You know, we started out this past year looking for ways to reimagine Mississippi's potential, looking for ways to grow our state and move it into the right direction, make us more competitive not only on a national stage but on a global stage. And each year we have volunteer leaders who give of their time and their talents, who serve on our board of directors. Now, at your table, and probably on one of the screens here, you're probably going to see a list of names. Individuals who have been nominated to serve as leaders for our board of directors for 2022 and 2023. I ask you to review that list, and once you've had a chance to review that list, I will be available to accept a motion for action on that list. I have a motion to accept, and I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, chair so orders. Thank you for those of you who are coming in as new leaders for our organization. And let me say, you know, I know they're going to be the leaders, but each one of you have something to offer, and I'm sure that they'll be ready, willing to hear what you have to say that will help make our organization even better. So thank you again for that. Governor Reeves had to leave, but we thank him for being here with us today. Lieutenant Governor Holzman and Speaker Gunn, thank you for being here. In fact, thank you to all of our elected officials for coming out. You know, MEC has a close relationship with our state legislature and all of our elected officials because we think that in order for our organization to be the very best, you know, the business community and our elected officials have to work together to move our state forward. So as a chairman this past year, I've had the opportunity to meet and talk with a lot of our officials. And as I mentioned, when the Omicron virus actually came along, we were getting ready to have our Capitol Day. We had to cancel that. And also had to cancel some of our legislative scramblers. So we were able to reschedule the Capitol Day at a later date, which I think worked out pretty good for us because we normally have that at the beginning of the legislative session where we would hear from the leaders and they would tell us the things that they believed that they were going to work on during the session. This time, it was right in the middle of the session, so we had an opportunity to hear what had been worked on, what they were working on currently, and what they anticipated working on before the end of the session. So I think it actually worked out pretty good for us. So, you know, the connections that we make as members of MEC go all around our region. those of you who are familiar with the MEC tour, we did something a little different this past year when it came to that. Instead of having a full-blown agenda where we went to different areas and did briefings, we listened. We actually had 51 small group listening sessions around the state. We listened to people in every region of the state. We wanted to know what they saw as an issue and how they thought we could move our state forward. And as a result of that, I think we came up with something that paid great dividends. You see the title on the board right behind me, Securing Mississippi's Future. It's our vision for economic growth. Now, we were able to release that back in February. And I think that we're moving forward because we were able to then match this plan with the top 5 priorities that MEC has as far as our strategic plan. And I want to touch on those top 5 here for just a minute. The first one is education, workforce development, and skills training. You heard the governor talk a little bit about that. What we want to do is develop a world-class workforce. And in order to do that, it requires training and education. Now, this job, there's some work that goes along with it, but there's also some things you get a chance to do that's a lot of fun. Last week, I got a chance to do one of those things that was fun. You heard Vicki Powell talk about the Star Student and Star Teacher celebration we had out at the Muse Center last week. Well, I had the opportunity to participate in that. Now, what really got my attention is the 320 students we had out there that we were honoring that day. We have some of the brightest minds in the state of Mississippi that you're going to find anywhere. Now, of those 320, 74% of them scored 30 or higher on their ACT. 74% out of the 320, 30 or higher. Now, that's a pretty good number. But the number that really got my attention was 26 of them had a perfect 36. Perfect 36. And then I found out later that there was 94 of them that was mad. You know why they were mad? Because they scored 35. They were 1 point away from a perfect score. Now, any of y'all who are, about my age, you remember Get Smart? We used to say, that close. It's almost there. Over a third of them were either had a perfect score or they were within 1 point of having a perfect score. Now, like I say, we got a lot of smart young men and women. All those are seniors. And I talked with some of them after the program, and it's no surprise that some of them, this fall are going to be attending college at Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Stanford and Vanderbilt. But the lion's share of that 320 and many others from their high schools are going to be going to school right here in the state of Mississippi. And yeah, they're going to go to some of our larger universities like Ole Miss and Mississippi State, Jackson State, and Southern. But I got to tell you, if you start looking for some of these students this fall, let me tell you where you're going to find them. You're going to find them at the Mississippi University for Women, admitting men since 1982. You're going to find them at Delta State University, Mississippi Valley State University, Alcorn, William Carey College, Belhaven, Millsaps, Mississippi College. And you're going to find some of them at one of the 15 members of the community college system that we have here in Mississippi, which is the best anywhere you'll find in the country. Now, what that tells me is that we've got a little bit of time, not a lot, but a little bit of time. In some cases, 2 years, some cases 4 years, some cases 5 or 6 years, depending on what type of education they decide to get. But at the end of that time, we as employers are going to have to be ready because they're going to be looking for something, and we're going to have to be ready to offer it to them. Because if we don't have it, we're not ready to offer it, they're going to leave our state and they're going to go somewhere else. Now that brings me to the second priority, which is talent retention and attraction. Back in November at our board meeting, we had a panel, a virtual panel, where we had 4 young people from the state of Mississippi join us on a call because they had all left the state of Mississippi, all of them in their 20s. But we wanted to know what motivated them to leave the state of Mississippi. Now, we also wanted to know what we could have done as a state that would have motivated them to stay. And then the third thing, we wanted to know, what could we do as a state to motivate them to come back? Now, I won't get into all of the answers that they gave us to the issues, but they were great, outstanding. But let me tell you a little bit about the 4 participants. 1 Caucasian female, 1 Caucasian male, 1 African-American female, 1 African-American male. The Caucasian female has a degree from Mississippi State. Today, she is an environmental engineer at a big company out in Houston, Texas. The African-American female has degrees from Mississippi State and Ole Miss. She's a PhD in biophysics, and she lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota today. The Caucasian male is a certified public accountant, works for a big firm up in Nashville, Tennessee. The African-American male, well, he's not working yet because he was too busy being the president of the student body at Harvard University. Now, you may say, well, that's just 4 people. Yeah, but to use a NFL pro football vernacular, those are 4 first-round draft picks. We can't afford to keep losing that type of talent out of our state. So we've got to be prepared. We've got to be ready. There's got to be something on the table when they finish their schooling to where we can hold on to them, because those are the type of individuals that can move the needle. And we really need them to be right here to help us move that needle. The third priority is infrastructure. You've heard a lot about it. I think we're moving in the right direction. I know that there was a lot of money that was allocated to fix our roads and bridges and other things. The third, economic development and business climate. We have to do things that are going to strengthen our existing businesses in this state, but then we've got to do things that's going to attract new businesses to come to Mississippi. And then the last thing is access to adequate and affordable health care. This is one that we cannot swing and miss on. We've got to make sure that our entire population has the opportunity to have adequate and affordable health care, because it is a workforce development issue. If you don't have a healthy workforce, you're not going to have a strong health workforce. So that's where we are, and we've got to move this forward. Now, I talked a little bit about our Securing Mississippi's plan. Those of you who know me, you know my military background. I have either written or I've participated in developing hundreds of plans across my military career. But the one thing I've said before, and I'll say again right here, a plan is worth absolutely nothing if it's never executed. Again, I encourage each of you to get a copy of our Securing Mississippi's Futures plan. Read it, because in order for us to execute it properly, it's going to take all of us moving in the right direction. We are the voice of Mississippi business, MEC. We intend to continue to do that. But the only way we can do that is we have everybody working together, pulling on the same end of the rope. You know, my time as the chairman has basically come and gone. So right now, what I'd like to do is thank a few people, starting with my wife, Deborah, who allowed me to take on this additional duty and has traveled with me around the state at different events. Thank you, Deborah, for what you've done. I'd like to thank my team over at MEC, who have covered down for me when I've had conflicts, couldn't be in 2 places at one time. Thank you for the MEC team. And I'd also like to thank the team at MEC. If you have not had the opportunity to work closely with them, you're missing out on an opportunity, because it is a team of blue chippers. They do an outstanding job, and as you can tell by this event, and I think they deserve a round of applause. And lastly, I'd like to thank you, the members of MEC, for giving me this opportunity to serve you in this role. It has truly been my honor. And I'd like to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite philosophers, Mr. Kermit the Frog. And Kermit says, life is like a book. You get to write your own ending. As we move forward, trying to increase our workforce and trying to make sure that we can hang on to our brightest young men and women, we have an opportunity to write that last chapter in the history of Mississippi. Ladies and gentlemen, let's don't miss this opportunity. Thank you again. Thank you.